I'm telling you, telesales is tougher than face-to-face. There's reasons why we do it, but it's tougher than face-to-face. And so the secret, I believe, is not necessarily the script that we've designed or anything, but the way that we develop our leads and the way we work our leads, with it being inbound driven.
Welcome back, guys. It's another edition of the Insurance Panel. If you haven't found out by now, we got a super special guest, and I know we just talked about it, but I might mess up his name again, so correct me if I'm wrong. We got the famous Ramiz Hakim from North Star with us today. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, Matt, I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me on. I've been following you and Nick and Vince and what you guys have been doing on the insurance panel, so I'm just honored to be here. I appreciate you taking time and letting me get on here with you guys.
Well, it's always interesting. You know, I ask, all the time I hear people like you who watch it, and the first question I always has is, are you subscribed? Okay, that's what I'm talking about. If you're not subscribed, it's out.
Every video that you put on, I hit the like button or the thumbs up twice.
Okay, that's perfect. So we got one guy doing a thumbs down, and we're going through every subscriber we have until we find the one thumbs down. So we're glad it's not.
It's instant. Like, man, that guy is on it. Whoever that is.
But we love the haters more than we.
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely. So I probably can't do the introduction properly for who you are and what you've done and what you've built, but I'm going to give it a shot. So if correct me or add stuff in if you want to at the end, because I want people to understand the dynamic of who you are and what you've built. So I don't want to give discredit to anything you've done. So if I miss anything that you want to add into it, this is your time. Okay. Co-founder and managing partner of North Star Insurance Advisors, which is the largest independent seller of final expense life insurance for telesales. Pretty much revolutionized or kind of made it bigger than what it was. Like, I don't know how long you've been in insurance, but you've made final expense telesales what it is today. A lot of people follow your model today from what you set in place many years ago, correct?
I think some people would say that, yes.
Okay. Super expensive background in insurance. Used it to build and scale North Star. Man, you've got a checklist of things that you've done here. Beautiful. I watch you online, so I know you got a beautiful wife. I want to say 3 children.
I just adopted a baby, so 4 now.
4 children, right? Four children, beautiful children. Do a lot of food pantry, serving the local government commission and zoning commissions. Since on a number of nonprofit boards. And your main goal now in your career is to just help every insurance agent that you possibly can. Is that correct?
Well, that I would say is definitely true. I have a way different philosophy on the insurance business than what the traditional marketers are putting out in the marketplace. And so I would think the last sentence that you just said is probably the most accurate. Gotcha.
So the wife and 4 kids is not true. The last one is just the most accurate, right? I'm kidding. But yes, that's kind of my thing is I want to help every agent I can. That's kind of why this whole insurance panel is built, is to help as many people as possible that may be watching this. We get messages from people saying, hey, shout out to Tip, what I use in the house today that Nick said or what Vince said helped me close $2,000 in annualized premium. To a brand new agent that's just getting started, 2,000 AP may not seem a lot to, all 3 of you guys, but to a brand new agent, it's huge, when you're first getting started. So, it's really fun to watch people do that. So, anything that I missed that you want to add on there? Because I know you have a laundry list of stuff that you've done.
No, man, I think that what you said is just fine. And listen, my accomplishments in the insurance business, if you want to call them accomplishments, are nowhere near what's most important to me. And I think the stuff that you talked about with my family and how I try to serve the community and give back to the industry that's been so good to me, that's really where my passion is. But yes, thanks for the nice introduction. You made me blush a little bit, Matt. Thanks.
That's perfect, guys. And as always, we got the famous Nick Frumkin and Vince Connell. Actually, Nick's in the field, and Vince just drove an hour and a half from the field to get into his office. So I told him he had to have a mic today because we got a bunch of people sounding like he sounds awful. So thanks for the mic. But
Yes,
we're going
sir.
to go ahead and get it right started. You know, the title of this video, I'm not really sure what it's going to be, but, you know, you touched on a little bit, Ramiz, and it's talking about doing things different. I know we talked a little bit off the camera about, you know, and I said, we don't really want to talk too much about it, but you do things different than basically everybody else in the industry. And that's kind of been the way you've done it, and it's kind of worked for you. So everybody has their idea of what works and what works for them. But what you've done is done something different, and it's worked for you. So I want to talk about that. So let's talk about doing things different. For one I care from, I did final expense face-to-face, primarily not door-to-door, but door knocking. I never really got on the phone until a year ago before I actually even picked up and called a lead. That was foreign to me at that point. But now I'm learning how to finally pick up the phone and not be scared of the phone. Right. But you do it's completely different. We were all on the phone.
Sure.
Right. So that's the way I've done it. That's the way I've built it. And it's worked for me. But I want to hear your thoughts on it.
Well, I think it's a very lucrative opportunity. I don't think you'll never hear me say selling face-to-face is a failed model. That is not true at all. I would even say selling face-to-face in many ways is easier than telesales. But the reason why I stopped meeting with my clients face-to-face is because I was getting burnt out. I didn't enjoy being in my car all those hours by myself. I didn't enjoy driving to appointments only to be no-showed. I did not enjoy the homes that I was in and the situations that I found myself in. And that was just me personally. And so I found out very quickly that the money was good, but that I did not enjoy that line of work. And so I made a decision when I was about a year and a half in the business that I wanted to get out of the field and learn how to sell this product over the phone, for the mere fact that I just did not enjoy being, you know, the windshield warrior that some people enjoy doing. And if that's what you enjoy to do, like, kudos to you, man. Like, you're going to be fine. Like, you're a special breed. You'll do well in just about any sales gig. But for me, I'm more of an extrovert, and I needed to be around other people to feed off the energy.
Gotcha. Vince, what you got, brother? I know you've been
Well,
waiting for that conversation.
Yeah, I've been very, very interested and intrigued of selling over the phone. I even messaged you one day trying to buy your script, seeing if you would sell your script, because I wanted to try it. You know, something I want to try just to see if I can do it.
Sure.
But you know, I've been selling in the field face to face for going on 6 years now, so it's all I know, and I've been very successful doing it and teaching other people how to do it. But I do feel like the industry I don't think the whole industry is going to take a turn, but I think a vast majority is going to be more digital.
Listen, there's no doubt about it. And even in the telesales realm, the reason why many agents, and Vince, maybe you have done this or tried this, they try to transition to telesales using a face-to-face marketing model, and then they fail out of it. Even in the telesales realm, you got to be a bit more creative, because customers are not answering their phones. Customers do not like salespeople calling them. Okay, that's why some of y'all just show up at the door knocking and try to get yourself in. Well, in the telesales side, it's more difficult to get into presentations. Like I'm telling you, telesales is tougher than face-to-face. There's reasons why we do it, but it's tougher than face-to-face. And so the secret, I believe, is not necessarily the script that we've designed or anything, but the way that we develop our leads and the way we work our leads, with it being inbound driven. And so when I'm putting up television ads and click to calls online, that from the point of interest to the point of presentation, that time is so compressed that my likelihood of being able to present to the customer is so much greater than putting out a direct mail piece, calling that customer back 2 or 3 weeks later, and then trying to, in some cases, reestablish that level of interest. I don't have to deal with that in telesales, because literally they watch a commercial, they call in, now my pitch begins.
So let's talk about that lead system then, because I think you're right. I think that's where a lot of people who are looking at telesales as an independent, like they're not wanting to go work for a call center or something, but actually like say, hey, I'm going to, on my own, from my own house, figure this out. I feel like that's where a lot of people really
They're trying.
I think you're right. It's a disconnect, right? Because they try to do the same, like 25 direct mail leads a week, but do it over the phone. And I don't know, it doesn't seem to work.
It doesn't.
So what would you say you guys do in terms of leads? Like you said, you're running television leads. Like, so what does that look like? Like how much do you guys spend running TV ads? How many leads generate per agent? How many agents do you have working those leads? Like, I think those are the types of things people are really kind of curious to kind of wrap their heads around.
Well, you got to understand, my model is atypical to the typical IMO model. All right. And I'll be totally upfront and frank, and it's something I'm not necessarily shy of, but we pay the least amount of commission than most independent agencies. We sell with only one carrier, which is the opposite of what the marketplace is telling agents that they need to do. And we demand a certain level of commitment from the people on our platform, which some IMOs will say will start off part-time and then ease your way into this full-time. So we do things very differently just on the foundation of what we're talking about here. And the reason for that is because we're trying to ration off a lot of the responsibilities that the single self-employed person is doing in the field, right? Like you do all your marketing, all your selling, all your pre-qualifying, all your service work, you're extracting your own referrals, you're doing your own cross-selling, and that's fine. But my opinion is that the average face-to-face guy is spending most of his time not selling insurance. He's spending most of his time doing everything outside of that, which I would consider a low-value activity. So our model is designed around, okay, let's take a cut in the commission, pay other people to do all of the, what I would call grunt work, and then compress time by not having to drive, and then just gobble up as many leads as you can and convert as many leads as you possibly can. Because that model only works if you are selling double or triple what you would in the field. That's the only reason why you would take a cut in your commission.
Right.
Now, the model works specifically because when I put out television ads, those calls get pre-screened by a pre-qualifying department. So the customer's interested, then they talk to somebody who's not an agent that ensures that they have a bank account, that they pass all my knockout questions, that they can verbalize and articulate their level of interest and why they called into the commercial. So if that lead, it fits that cookie cutter scenario, then we do a warm handoff with a sales agent on the phone, a licensed agent, who then begins, the actual sales presentation. When they'll do their presentation, it's all scripted. When that's complete, they'll never touch that client again other than to upsell them. Then it goes into a customer service department who handles all their service work, all their soft touches. They'll upsell on behalf of the agent, extract referrals on behalf of the agent, fix beneficiaries and banking and address, everything. And that the agent's time is really only spent 100% of the time making sales. That I think is the secret sauce, which can be replicated face to face. I just don't think anyone's really running an agency like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, no, not at least not in the final expense world. I know there are agencies that run like that, but you're talking about like your Merrill Lynch style agencies then.
Right.
You're talking like big financial services sector agencies. So what are your thoughts on somebody who's like Matt or Vince saying, hey, I'm going to hang up this whole going out and seeing people on my own type of a thing, and I want to just switch over and just do telesales full time. They're obviously, without going and getting investors or bank loans or things like that, they're not going to be able to create a thing like what you've got. So, how does that work for somebody like them who wants to just say, I like the business model that I have, but I want to do it over the phone instead of.
I want to do it in my underwear.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't.
And that's the real question. Why would you want to do it differently than what's working for you right now? Why? So if the answer is I want to do it in my underwear, I'm gonna tell you right now, you're gonna fail. Okay.
100%.
There's no doubt you're gonna fail. If it's because you want to sell for 2 days a week instead of working 5 days a week, you're going to fail.
Right.
If it's because I don't like driving an hour to come back home and I'm missing time with my family, I think that warrants a conversation. I think there's a reason to get on the phone. If it's, hey, I want to put in more time to make more money and compress that time, there's a reason for that. So the real question is, why sell over the phone? If it's because you're lazy or you're trying to find a shortcut, it ain't happening.
Right.
You're going to fail.
No, and I think the one thing that you and I completely agree on is phone sales is harder. Like it is 100% way more difficult to create that relationship and build that trust over the phone than it is when you're able to look somebody eye to eye.
I will never disagree with that. Absolutely not. The tougher part is, driving around alone all day and then sitting in homes that are not the most appealing. Like that was tough for me. You know what I'm saying? So, but I agree. If I'm in the home, there's a probability that I'm closing down this deal. There's no doubt about it.
Right. Yep. Let me ask you this, because you touched on it and you passed on it. The independent model, we call the independent model is where you have multiple contracts through multiple companies and you sell multiple lines of products. You said that you sell one company. I know the name of the company and I'm sure they wouldn't mind you saying it because you do a lot of business with them. And I had somebody ask me about you and said, why does he sell for that one company? There's a cheaper option than this. And my thought process was this, because their back office is if you learn their back office, it's amazing. You can see everything. But if you're trying to run a telesales operation, you have 5 companies and you're looking at the checks and balances of chargebacks from over here and the positives from over here. And some companies don't tell you everything like that one company does. It makes it much harder instead of having it in one place that's going to give you everything that you need and not worrying about the checks and balances everywhere else. Is that correct?
Listen, man, it would be so much easier to sell insurance without insurance companies. All right. They just don't get it. Be honest about it. Like at this point in my life, I see them as a necessary evil. So are there better options that are cheaper for the customer? Yes. Are there better, like theoretically better options that are maybe have better,
underwriting?
A better underwriting? I'm sure there is, but sure. I like to work with companies that make my job easier.
Right.
Right? And if I'm going to spend all my time, there's a company now that just changed their underwriting guidelines, and they're known for flagging a lot of applications and issuing a lot of amendments. All right.
Yes. Yeah.
And people were going crazy about them until they made the change in their underwriting. And I could never understand if 20% or even 10% of your business was being underwritten differently than what you're used to. And then I'm having to spend hours upon hours of my time chasing one application. I'm losing so much money in that situation. And so I have chosen as an independent agent, as an independent agency, to work with what I would consider the best of the best in the industry. The one that makes sure that my clients are taken care of and that I'm taken care of, and that gives me a seat at the table to say, as an agent, this is what I need to be the most profitable and to ensure that my clients are taken care of. If there was another company that that listened to me the way that my main carrier listens to me, I would be open to other carriers. But I've yet to find, listen, man, there's multi-million-dollar insurance companies owned by multi-billion-dollar companies that don't know how to bill customers correctly. Like, if you can't figure that out, like, I can't sell for you.
That's right.
No. Hey, listen, and I'm gonna say what you're saying. I mean, we joked before coming on here that we were gonna be all like, this is all gonna be the fight episode. But we honestly, I mean, that's not that different than my philosophy, or frankly, the panel's philosophy when we talk to agents about what they should be doing, which is, they should be going out and they should be picking for themselves one company that they like, that they know how to work with. And, and that should be getting the majority of their business. And then, if you're going to be spending the time to drive out and go see people, don't walk out of the house without doing business. So have some backup companies in case for some reason you can't do business with the one company that you want to, but try and shove all the business you can into that one company.
But Nick, I'll interrupt you just for a second there. That in and of itself, that comment is perceived controversial in the industry. Okay. The many marketing agencies will get you contracted with every final expense carrier, every MedSup, MedAdvantage, a new, like they'll just shove everything down a new agent's throat, and the agent never can gain any traction because they're trying to figure out all this stuff and they're constantly chasing.
Yeah, no.
I agree with what you're saying. I just don't think most leaders or perceived leaders in the industry would agree with this conversation.
Do you know why
No,
they
I think
do
you're
that?
right.
The reason they do that is because if from an IMO standpoint, what they think is, if I don't have that person, that contract, they can go get it somewhere else.
Sure.
If they get a contract somewhere else, they're going to ask for releases on the contracts that we do have. So we're going to run them through the garden, give them everything, and then at least we hold on to them for 6 months. Right.
Well, or as an IMO, which that whole model, we could talk about that, I believe is a disaster. I hate the IMO model.
We'll put a pin in that, come back.
Or maybe the IMO doesn't care if they have 100 agents writing one app a week or 10 agents writing 10 a week. Like, they don't care. The override is the same. So
Right.
I believe it's just mass recruiting in a very failed model that at the end of the day, the only one that gets hurt is the agent who's trying to freaking make ends meet, you know?
Yeah. No, it's like the old rhyme, you know, hire in masses, train them in classes, sell their friends, and then fire their asses, you know?
That's what I'm saying.
That's right. Vince, what you got to say, brother?
Well, I don't really have many comments on the IMO model and the captive model or career model, as you could call it. I think they're both totally different, and they both work in a different way.
Right. Now, when you say you pay, like, because one thing I tell people when they take a lower commission, they're also taking lower renewals. The renewal from a commission level where you're at and the commission level that you may give out is significant. So if you're selling at a high level for 5 or 10 years, the amount of renewals that person is losing is significant.
Sure.
But they have to make up that decision if that's worth it to them. For me, it's not. I like renewals. I enjoy my renewals.
Me too.
Yeah, it only makes sense if you're going to take a reduced comp. If you're going to take reduced comp and have someone else pay for your leads, number one, make sure they're leads. Like, taking reduced comp and then selling you leads or telling you to go to your friends or family or door knocking.
Right.
That is not like what we're talking about here. Okay. So if you're going to take reduced comp, the model has to prove out that you could write more than you would as a single guy doing all the work on your own. That's number one. Okay. No doubt about that. And I believe in order to get to that level, to be that efficient, you have got to actually create a business so that the whole entire operation is not on your shoulders. You got to have an assistant or an appointment setter or some kind of service worker, because if you're the one guy doing all the work, you're going to cap out at some time. You have got to delegate off some of that stuff and then showcase your skill set, which is really the only reason why we got into this industry, is because we're good at sales. So I don't disagree with what you're saying. It only makes sense, financially speaking, if you can do double or triple what you would, or if you just don't like certain aspects of the industry, right? Like, if I'm an attractive young female, I'm not going to the houses that you just came from. Like, I'm not doing that. I would much rather sit in the comfort of an office and sell. Or if I enjoy maybe a little bit more of an employee environment, like, it's not for everybody to do what I used to do and what y'all are doing. So it's really based off of my personal preference, and if the money makes sense for me, then I would take the hurdle there.
Yeah. So whenever I think of telesales, I think of me sitting in front of my computer like this for 6 hours a day, looking at my computer screen and just getting on the phone and trying to have conversations and getting hung up on, and me being like, bump this, I'm done. And like, I'm hanging up my phone. You know what I mean? Like, if I got 5 phone calls in an hour and 13 minutes into my sales script that you gave me, person's like, nah, I don't want it. And like hung up. I'm like, excuse me, what? Because like you said, what I can do in a house face to face is I'll close 75, 80% of the people I sit down with. But how many leads would you say that your typical agent that sits in a place like that, and I don't know if that's how that operation works, but that's what I, as a independent insurance agent who'd never done telesales, that's what I think telesales is. How many leads do you think an agent runs through in your operation, and what's your cost per lead?
My agents will take 8 to 10 leads a day.
Got it.
Now, to get that 8 or 10 leads, it's going to require anywhere between 20 to 30 inbound calls.
Got it.
That are answered by a pre-qualifier and then warm conferenced into you. All right. So of that 8 to 10, the average agent will close between 20 to 30% of those leads.
So they get 8 to 10 leads a day that are generated. So like a third of the people that call in end up passing the qualification, you'd
Yes.
say, about approximately.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And so then they're doing like 8 to 10 presentations a day, which is a lot. Like if you're like, I mean, that's a solid work day.
Yeah.
You know, and then you're closing
30%.
like 30%. You know, I'm gonna say it's a lot of work. That is a lot of work. You're right. You're not wrong when you say that's hard. And that's probably also a difficult thing. Again, if you don't have an entire agency structure like North Star around you, it is probably a difficult thing for you to do yourself, because then you're talking about 30 leads a day that you'd have to try and generate yourself as an independent solo agent, of which you can probably expect to be closing like 10% if those numbers true out through everything.
Correct.
Well,
and then are you even actually going to be able to process that many leads a day?
Well, yes.
So,
I don't think you'd be able to process that many, because as an independent agent is probably going to have multiple carriers. Like, we don't sell guaranteed issue. I don't even touch guaranteed issue. And I don't do any direct express. So the closing ratio might even be higher for an independent agent.
Okay.
So I can't attest to that. But I believe the quality of business would be much lower. And
Sure.
so it's a double-edged sword.
Right.
All right. Hey, no, that makes sense.
So
I'm just
how
trying to
about
convert it to like something that's more, I mean, nothing against your model. It's just your model is a very different model than what we do, and I think what a lot of the people who watch us do. So I'm trying to just sort of mentally kind of make the analogy in my head for how that would translate. If somebody decides, hey, you know, because I know there are, I mean, Matt, you know some people who you're friends with who do primarily telesales. I know a couple of people who do primarily telesales. But the independent telesales agent seems to be, the successful independent telesales agent seems to be a fairly rare commodity.
Right.
I'm not going to go so far as to say they're a unicorn, because they exist, but they're definitely the exception rather than the rule, I think I would say.
Well, I would say, and I don't disagree with you, but I would go so far as to say, and I'd like your opinion on this, Nick, that the independent, successful face-to-face agent is also a rare person.
That goes back. It all goes back into one of our previous videos. Like, what is success? What do you define success as? You know, success for one person. You know, what Nick's success is Nick issue pays $300,000 or more a year, right? But to a brand new agent who's never done this, their successful year is 125. They've never seen that kind of money before. But if that's all they ever need, then if they do 125 a year, 80% stays in the books, they're making $100,000. They're like, I'm done. Right. So what's really success for those people? Right.
Well, I'm saying let's just consider success as somebody who's still in the industry.
That's right.
Let's just say that.
That's
and
true.
I'm going to tell you from my experience, just in the insurance business as a whole, the turnover rate is horrendous. And so we cannot pretend like there's not a failure on the part of the industry when it comes to our model. Like, it's just a failed model for most people. Now, maybe most people shouldn't be entering the insurance industry. Maybe most people think they're entrepreneurs, but they're not. But the fact of the matter is that we're attracting a lot of people, and most of them will not make it in the industry.
No, it's definitely true.
Well, let me ask
Ramiz,
you.
what do you think about a hybrid model? If somebody comes in and they can choose whether they want telesales or face to face, and you can teach them either way or both,
At the same time?
either one, or if they want to learn how to do both, they can learn how to do both and make it a simple system. So that's kind of what I was trying to look into.
Yeah, I think the skill set is different over the phone and face to face. And you would need to have an on and off switch to make that happen. And I believe in sales, a lot of it is momentum driven. And if you're constantly starting and stopping, you're just not going to make it. You need to pick one path and just keep moving forward in that one vein.
Because there's an insurance carrier in Georgia that try to push, they push that model. An insurance carrier. So.
Oh yeah. Well, I know who that carrier is, and they can. I mean,
well, we touched on failure rate, and you're right. I think the 8% nation is about 92% of agents fail, right? In the insurance,
right?
But it's just not fine. It might not be. It's a little skewed because we think all of insurance, not just final expense. Ours is a specific niche in the insurance. I don't know what the real failure rate is in final expense, but
probably more.
Probably higher. I was going to say it's probably a lot higher because it's recruited a lot more heavily, especially right now.
Yeah, it's the dream sell, right? Most of us probably got into this somehow because we were showed a presentation about how much money we could make, and we're like, "Yep, I can do that. I'm going to go do that." Right? That everybody got about the same thing, right? They watch
more or less.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyways, I want to touch on that because we talked about that, but. Do you find in telesales, especially with your operation, do you have a high turnover rate as well?
Nowhere near what the industry is. I mean, listen, I've taken final expense, which has probably the highest turnover than any other segment in the insurance business. And then you couple that with call center, which has the highest turnover than any other sector probably in America. And we put those two things together. So yes, I do experience turnover, but it's nowhere near flipping 20% of my staff every year.
Right. Well, I know part of that is, and I watch it on Facebook, is a part of your culture and what you bring to your culture. I mean, I saw you in October, you were dressed up in high heels or whatever, and you had a big meeting, and it looked like a lot of fun. So there's some enjoyment at work, and it's a telesales office. But again, so everybody's thought process when they think telesales is like, just sitting there all day long and be like, phone call, but it doesn't seem to be that way at your operation, which is probably amounts to a huge part of your agency's success.
Well, I mean, we're family owned and operated, man. Like both my brothers work here, my mother works here, my wife works here, my little sister's here often. My kids are running through the hallways here, and there's a I would say a sense of magic around this place, man. Like it's just a fun place to work, and we have TVs everywhere, and there's music playing, and we're running contests. I mean, just 2 weeks ago, I took my top 3 producers on a trip to Israel, paid for their flights, paid for their rooms. We toured the Holy Land. These are experiences that we're exposing people to, that they become evangelical to our cause. And my cause here is taking the average person and putting them into an entrepreneurial position where they're set up for success and where I'm willing to take the risk with them, as opposed to how I started in the industry, where someone said I can do it and then had me sit at a desk and write down 500 of my friends and family and say, go get them, Tiger.
Right.
I think culture is so important, but a lot of time that's missed within the industry because people aren't running agencies like a business. They're running it like salespeople.
Got it.
Yeah. No, and I do think it comes back to, with all of the guests that we've ever had on, going back to our first video that we've done, the people who are successful and the groups that seem to work are the ones that manage to build that kind of culture where people are happy. People are feeling like they're getting what they were expecting out of the job experience.
Yes.
Whether that is freedom and lifestyle or, just a great place to go into work and camaraderie and friendship or whatever. And that does seem to be, and if you wanted to get onto the whole IMO thing, I'd be fascinated to hear what you have to say about that. But, and this might make a decent segue, but it does seem to be that's the cultural aspect that does really feel like it's missing, especially from a lot of these larger agencies, you know, a lot of the three initial agencies out there, where they've got kind of a false culture where it's a lot of like performative culture as opposed to actual, real, genuine human connections and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And listen, if insurance agencies modeled their so-called business after like real businesses, like Fortune 500 businesses, it would really transform the industry. But what ends up happening is you got all these agents, man, that are just migrating from opportunity to opportunity to and they're just circling around trying to find a home. And I have found, just personally, money's important, man, but serving a greater cause is what's going to keep the people there. And there has to be like, what are we showing up for every day? And let's aim for that. And money becomes the byproduct.
That's
but
right.
Serving a greater cause is just so much more important. And so many people miss that.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
That's right. We get so caught up in the money, we forget what, like, someone made a post today that you commented on it actually from the carrier that you use. He wrote a policy. It got issued in October. The person passed away a month later, and the beneficiary is going to get close to $100,000.
Yeah, dang,
like
nice.
That's what we do, and that company is going to pay that claim because they're a reputable company, right?
Right.
That's a story. Insurance is not sold; it's a story told.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of how I do my sales nowadays is not really selling. It's just explaining how it works, explaining stories, and people are like, I want to get that thing from you. That's how I do my sales. But we get so caught up in here's how much money you can make, and the people are counting commissions while they're writing the app that they're forgetting what they're doing. Right.
Yeah. And that never works out well.
I've had an agent text me while they're in a house or saying, hey, I'm writing up a $172 app right now. How much am I going to get paid? I'm like, it's the ink's not even dried yet. Like, you haven't even it's not even approved. Like, get it done first. Let it get approved, and then I'll show you what the commission is because you'll see it on your statement. But so many people get caught up with the money.
Yeah,
So.
Or like, you know, John Duggar, who was a guest on recently. You know, he talked about that same thing. You know, how the company he chooses to lead with pays some of the lowest commission in the industry. You know, it's got the lowest street level comp of any of the final expense carriers out there, and he makes more money writing them than he's ever made writing any other carrier because of all of those other intangible things. You know, the number of policies he can place on the books and the number of things that can stay on and how well their back office works and all of that kind of stuff. And, you know, it's not always about the largest comp. It's a lot of times about some of those greater intangible things and making sure that that all works.
I think the biggest thing, and I think John is a great example of this, is you have to be convicted in what you're doing. And if you lack conviction, you're not going to be able to adequately influence somebody into making a decision, you know? And that is the crux of the whole thing. Like, if you're in this for the money, I don't care if you're selling cars, if you're selling insurance, it doesn't matter what you're selling. It's that your goal cannot be the money. But if you have a deep conviction and you're able to transfer that to your prospect, you can do that over the phone. You can do it face to face. Heck, there's carriers now that are selling it completely over the internet with no human interaction.
That's right.
But look at the pictures they're using. Look at the language they're using. They're transferring this deep conviction in their product and what they're going to be doing on behalf of them for their family to get someone to make a decision today. And that's what it is. It's all about that deep conviction.
Vince, you quiet over there, buddy. What you got?
I'm just listening, man. I'm learning from the experts in the industry.
I want to get back because I don't know if you avoided the question or you just forgot to answer it. I'm sure you didn't avoid it. Running television ads, what's your cost per lead?
All right. So there's a number of ways you can cost out television ads.
Okay.
When I was first getting in the industry or first getting into television, I was using lead vendors. Okay. And lead vendors will charge you between $35 to $45 a call.
Got it.
Which is an okay price. Then when I decided to go out and do because I don't like dealing with lead vendors because I just got inconsistent leads.
Got it.
Then I went out and I bought Remnant Space, produced our own television commercial, bought Remnant Space. Those are probably the cheapest leads you're going to get, but you never know when those calls are coming in. They're literally like last second, okay, we got 30 seconds here at some random television commercial time, plug it in there, and it was just inconsistent. So now we're buying, 90 days ahead of time with some of the broadcast channels, and my cost per lead is probably around, on a good day, $27.50 up to about $35. That's what it costs for one of my pre-qualifiers to answer the phone. And then, of course, we got to pre-scrub the lead and then get it over to a salesperson.
Got it.
Now, that's a lot more expensive than what it costs me to push a button on your phone right now on Facebook and call right now. So we're mixing all that stuff together to drive in as much inbound traffic as we can from all the sources we possibly can.
Sure. So let's say a prospect calls and they're on direct express. They had a heart attack 6 months ago. Do you write any modified policies? Do you just write level coverage?
Level and then return a premium.
Return a premium. Yeah. Okay. Let's say someone doesn't qualify. They don't fit in your cookie cutter.
Yeah.
What do you do with that lead? Do you sell it to a different agency? Do you have a different agency that runs a more traditional model that you give it to, or what's the deal there?
I do sell. I used to just throw the lead away, and that worked for me just fine until I found there were some people that were okay with writing direct.
Gobbled it up. Right.
Yeah. And so I sell to some independent agencies. And to be quite honest with you, there are some large insurance companies that have their own in-house teams that write anything. And they love, it's a lead from the television commercial that just happens to have direct express. So it's a good lead. It's just not a good quality lead. And some of these larger insurance companies don't care. They'll take anything.
Right. They'll take any business they can get. Okay.
So Ramiz, are you just solely focused on one carrier, or do you have like ties in with multiple carriers? Do you have an independent brokerage side and a career side, or are you just focused 100% on the career side?
All right. So North Star is my bread and butter. And not only do I sell for one company, I have one product with that company. Okay. So that's where all of our business is going to go. I do have an equity stake in a brokerage that sells over the phone. Their name is Premier Producers Group. And we do provide leads for them, for people that are calling into television commercial. But it's an independent model. And so I see both sides of the business. So I know what the turnover is like over there. When you're spending your own money, it's much more emotional. So you have a bad week. Like when I had a bad week, I doubled down the next week. Most people don't double down. They retract and try to find old leads to call on. And so we're finding that independent model, at least on the telesales side, is much more difficult to scale and to find more people that are willing to run it than on the captive side. We got a lot of agents that are willing to take cuts to do what we do.
Well, let me ask you this. Oh, go ahead, Nick. Go ahead.
Oh, no. Well, I was going to say, so when we're talking about your captive agency, I am curious because I think it was your brother like 2 or 2.5 years ago. I had a conversation on Facebook about kind of how things work at North Star. And it's like you go in, it's a 9 to 5, 5-day-a-week job, right? Like you clock in at an office and you sit at the desk and you have, I think you said something like 20 hours of talk time over the course of the week, and then some other amount of slush other time. Right. But you're you're there. It's a 9 to 5, right?
Yeah. If you run your own business, you should put in full-time hours. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But we're not working late into the evening. We're not driving home at 7 or 8 o'clock at night. It really is 9 to 5.
Right. Yeah. No. Yeah, absolutely. It's legitimately 9 to 5. You go in at 9, you work till 5, you go home. All your troubles are left behind you because there's an agency that's dealing with all of the weird oddball stuff that happens behind the scenes. You come back in the next day, you do it all over again.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And when you take a day off, as your customers are calling in, there's people still answering the phones and servicing your book of business and conserving and changing policies and all that good stuff. So it's really on autopilot.
What is the persistency with telesales?
I can't speak for everybody. I would say probably most people have really bad persistency in telesales. My persistency is 80% in my 13th month is where I'm at.
Okay.
And another question I got, this one thing that I've always kind of wondered is how do you get the husband and the wife? Like, how would you do that? I mean, I can do it by sitting in front of both of them and getting them both to sign the app. How would you do that on the phone?
So there's a technique to it, but it's not that difficult. You are able to very quickly find who the alpha in the relationship is, and you focus your energies on that person. We close down that one person first, and then move on to the second person. So we close the decision maker first, and then we will close the spouse after that. But it's not that hard. It's not that difficult, and they don't even have to be on speakerphone. Like, you just have to identify who's the alpha. Like, who's the decision maker here? Let's close you down first.
Gotcha. Let me ask you this, because you're smarter than I am. Let's say I'm an independent agent and I'm willing to take a comp cut. I come work for a place that's going to buy my leads. I'm on a much lower comp. I'm willing to do this, but I suck. I suck on the phone for, hell, Ramiz, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks. How long can you go before you cut bait on a person? You just say, hey, look, you're not going to work out in telesales. We got to cut you.
My culture demands that if you don't give up, I won't give up on you. My culture demands that. And I'm not tight. Like, I'm not running an office on a shoestring budget here. So many people don't have that luxury. But if you're showing up every day and you're giving me 100%, I will never, ever, ever let someone go if they're giving me their all. No, my culture will not allow for that to happen. Got it.
Yeah, most places say, hey, I'll tell you what, I'll give you a reduced comp, but you need to, they do the math in their head. They said if that person produces, $3,000 annualized premium a week, I'll make this much profitability. That'll cut this much more for their leads, and I'll make this much for my quote unquote overrides, right? But if they're not producing $3,000 a week, week 3, you've bought that person $900, $1,000, $1,500 worth of leads, and they haven't produced anything.
Well, here's my opinion on that. Number one, this person's 100% commission. They're already stressed out, man. Like,
that's right.
You can't put more stress on them. That's number one. Number two, you hired them. Like,
that's
the
right.
burden of their success should fall on my shoulders, not on their shoulders.
That's right.
If I see them and I believe they're coachable and they tell me they're dependable, that's all I can ask for. And I can't be the one to, like, make it harder for them to be successful. Like, I got to be the one to make it easier for them to be successful. Mm-hmm. My number 2 gal right now, this is verifiable. Her name is Angela Kitty. She will place just over $250,000 of premium this year. And I'm going to tell you, she was the hardest person I have ever trained in my entire life. She would not listen to what I was saying. She would not do what I told her to do. And she'd say, I wasn't raised that way. I don't talk to people that way. And I'd literally have to tell her, like, listen, if you want this to work out, you've got to follow my training. And now, after her burning through so many leads, like, it was like watching Miss Pac-Man on a game, just eating up all my leads. She's number 2 in probably number 3 for the carrier out of over 12,000 contracted agents, because I didn't give up on her. And money is not the motivating factor. Like, my why is not money. And if that's what yours is, you're going to fail, whether you're independent by yourself or if you're trying to recruit people. If you're in it for the money, like, it's just, you have a tough time making that work.
Gotcha. Well, you said something there. You said she is going to pay about $250,000. But you also said that the person needs to be able to do double, if not triple, what they can do in the field. But Nick, again, is somebody that's doing $300,000+ a year on his own pen.
Yeah.
Right. So if she can do that, why wouldn't she take a independent model and do the exact same thing with multiple carriers and make more comp?
Well, she's a good-looking blonde, first of all, and
gotcha.
So for her to be showing up the same place as Nick is, she'll have to have one, like a life alert with her, to make sure she doesn't like.
Right. But again, my question is to make the same amount of money that Nick's going to make, is she paying that amount of business? She would have to sell, let's call it $500,000, right?
Listen, I think the better question is, why would Nick even consider getting into telesales? Like, there's no.
Oh yeah,
reason,
100%. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Oh,
And-
we all agree that it is
Yeah.
two separate entities. I'm just with you. I just like to play devil's advocate on this, so just let me handle it. So yeah, we agree here.
So why would somebody, if she's making more money she's ever made in her entire life,
Sure.
she enjoys what she's doing, okay? She comes to a safe place every day, and she wins, like she's guaranteed to win a trip every year. Like she's been all over the world. And so for her, I'm not sure if her having to front her own cash, drive to her own appointments, set her own appointments, service her own book, like I'm not sure if that's what she wants.
Sure.
It's probably not what she wants. You know what I mean?
She's used to doing what she's doing. I was just saying, at that point when she's learned how to do it the way you've done it, she knows your system, she knows everything. Are you worried about her ever saying, hey, I'm going to go get some contracts with some other telesales opportunities, and I can do it myself and take a much higher comp?
Again, every agent on our platform makes on a per deal basis less than the industry average. Okay. And they know that. Like, that's not a secret.
Right.
When I go on convention trips, do you know that other IMOs complain about my agents because we recruit their agents from them? And I have to get spoken to. And all I tell everybody is I pay half of what they pay. Like, we're not doing anything. You know what I mean? So what Nick is experiencing is atypical to the industry. Sorry, Nick, but
that's okay.
So my answer is, like, I'm not worried about it because I feel like what we're doing here is open, honest, and upfront. We have a good atmosphere, a good culture, a good product. And if they don't like that and would rather do it on their own, like, they have my blessings. Like, I started my own business too. I would never want to stop somebody from starting their own business either.
Gotcha. So you're in what state, Ramiz? Texas?
St. Louis, Missouri.
St. Louis, Missouri. Okay, way off. Does someone have to move to St. Louis, Missouri, to be in that office space to do it the way that you do it? Because you probably can't. I couldn't go and say, hey, I want to work with you now and do it from my home and do it the way that you expect, because your model is in office, right? 9 to 5.
Well, we're getting borderline recruiting here, Matt. But
I'm trying to play devil's advocate here, and I know we're dancing on the line.
We do allow agents to contract with us and work from their home. But because the demand is so high, I charge a upfront fee to allow them to get on our platform. And that helps me determine if they're willing to stick through it, through training, and like, give me 90 days. Like, if you're just trying to make quick money and out, that's not the person I'm looking to recruit anyways. But there is a cost involved if you're going to work from home, and we do allow that to happen.
Yeah, and you need a special setup. It's not just like you can do it with just a cell phone and a pair of headphones. You need probably a pretty decent laptop or a computer and everything else like that, correct?
Well, not really. I mean, everything is HTML+, and so you could work off of the Chromebook, and you'll be just fine.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Nick, anything else, brother?
I'm set, man. This was fun. Sorry, I'm looking kind of over my shoulder. The reason I'm broadcasting from my car is I'm getting ready to go into a PTA meeting at my daughter's school, and I parked in the parking lot early, and people are starting to arrive. And so as lights are flashing by, I'm kind of like checking over my shoulder. But yeah, no, I mean, this was fun. This was I think really interesting, and legitimately not really what I expected, but in kind of a good way. So that's kind of cool. So yeah, I'm good. This was a good time.
Vince, what you got, brother?
I enjoyed it. I learned some stuff. Got some things I was thinking about cleared up. So
sure.
I'm glad to have you.
Well, I absolutely hate you, Ramiz. I think you're the worst person. I'm just kidding.
Oh, the feeling's mutual.
I'm just kidding, brother. No, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on here. Again, it's super awesome that I know I talk to Nick and Vince about this all the time, but we have people reach out to us that we don't even, like, carriers watch this show. you know, we don't expect for, like, I think Nick said that you reached out to him. I was like, wait, Ramiz like reached out? Do you want to be on the show? He's like, yeah, I know. I'm like, wait a second, Ramiz watches the show? He's like, yeah, I know. So it's really cool that people watch the show, which, by the way, guys, if you're watching the show, you know statistically 62% of you are not subscribed. So go ahead and hit the subscribe button. It helps our algorithms. Like the video. Don't be the person that dislikes it, and comment down below if you have extra questions. What we do, Ramiz, for some people, especially there's going to be a lot of questions and stuff like that in the comments. We'll probably do a separate video, like a question, where at the end of another video, we'll just do just a question. So a comment from the YouTube channel, instead of you going in there and replying, we'll do a separate video and let you reply to each one of those questions.
Nice.
Kind of a secondary video for you to do.
Cool.
Yeah. So if you want your question answered, sure, you can email us. We take the emails. The emails are great, but put it in the comments.
Put it in the comments.
You can see what's coming up.
Yeah, and if you want to just email us, theinsurancepanel@gmail.com. I'm sure Nick or myself, I'm hopefully going to get into some the editing stuff for Nick. Theinsurancepanel@gmail.com. You can email us there, but it always helps for you to like it, comment, subscribe. Please comment and subscribe. It helps so much get these videos out there. I have so many people that reach out to us that say these videos are awesome. They've helped a ton. That's the point of these whole series, this entire The Insurance Panel, is to help as many agents as possible. So, Ramiz, you've been wonderful, my friend. It's good to see you again. I know you probably didn't even know who I was when I sat next to you at 8% Nation. I sat front row right next to Vince.
Yes, I remember you. You were wearing like a SNL shirt, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I was the guy that gave Grant Cardone the money. So.
Oh, that's right. And he didn't want to give it back to you either.
Well, he didn't give it back. He didn't give it back, but the reason he did it, and it was funny because I told him, I said, look, I told Cody, I said, look, I don't want my money back. I said, just get me in the room with Grant. And I got escorted up to Grant. So it was the easiest $50 I've ever spent. And when I actually went up to the room, I came back and tried to hand him another like $100. He's like, what are you doing, dude? I was like, I'm always sewing where I'm going, brother. And he was like, this dude gets it. And so that he made an Instagram post about it and to help, scale my Instagram. So it was easy marketing for me. It made sense to me. But what he really does with the money is he gives it out to somebody who needs it. He collects like $5,000 and then hands it to somebody who needs it. So yeah, it was super cool. But yeah, absolutely loved having you on the show, man. You're always welcome back if you want to be on here again. Anything else, guys? We wrapped up here.
Good to meet you, Ramiz.
Pleasure. My pleasure. And listen, if some of the questions come in and they're looking for specific like word tracks or scripting on telesales, I'm at the place in my life right now, man, that I really want to be as open as I can be. And so I'm listen, I told y'all I'm open about any questions that you have. I'm not hiding anything. It's not that complicated to do what we're doing. And if we can help in any way, or if I can help in any way, I'd be more than happy to do that.